Be part of a worldwide community of over 100,000 people and enjoy exclusive benefits while protecting the activities we love. RYA membership, your route to expert advice. Become a member today. You're listening to the RYA 150 podcast, hosted by record-breaking British yachtswoman Dee Caffari, marking 150 years of sailing heritage and future inspiration.
From grassroots to world-class racing, trailblazers are changing the concept of our sport, and I am delighted to be joined by two such trailblazers. We have Hannah Brewis, who is the race manager of Clipper Race, a former skipper in the race and first mate, so has lived it and now delivers it. And also Pip Woods, managing director of Rockley Watersports, and you have lots of hats in lots of rings to do with sailing, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
The nature of your experience, shall we say?
Yeah, I think I've just been around a long time, whether that means I'm old or what have you, but I'm so passionate about the industry. So if that means I can give back and do other stuff, then fab. I think most recently where I'm sat on the board of the RYA, I'm there saying, come on, we can do stuff. But first and foremost, I'm running an amazing water sports company, which is getting loads of people into the sport. And anything else kind of comes alongside it, really.
Well, already your energy is infectious, so that is really recognisable.
Thank you.
But also what's quite funny is the link that you two have. This was unbeknown to me when we set up this conversation. So Hannah, tell me how long you've known each other and how that connection is.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea you were coming out. I heard Pip's name and I thought, it could be Pip Woods. And it was. And I actually started working first in the industry, was in dinghy sailing, and I worked for Rockley Watersports for maybe 3 years. And you were my boss. And it was great, a great experience, and so much so I went on to go do my yacht master and on and on to where I am now. So it's great to be here with you. And
I
wanted her to stay working for us, and then she decided to go off and do all this big boat stuff, you see. And now look at her.
You did such a good job. That's what led to her doing her career.
No, it was good fun.
Yeah,
we had a laugh.
Yeah, we had a laugh. Lots of stories.
But that in itself, the topic of women in sailing can be a little cringeworthy and you don't know what people want to talk about.
Yeah.
But that in itself is very unusual. You're managing the centre, you've produced female sailors that have gone on to do incredible things.
Yeah.
That's not very common.
No.
Let's be honest, that isn't probably your run-of-the-mill success story.
No, I think it's actually a little bit of a responsibility to bring any young person through like a pathway where they can learn to sail, maybe train to be an instructor, then work for us, and then go on and do other stuff. I feel like that's tick, job done, right, next, and that's, for me, why I'm in it. And if we can bring young females into the sport as well, that typically maybe slightly less confident when they start, and at the end, well, they're like this, brilliant.
And what, in your opinion, are the real or perceived barriers that prevent us having just as many females in the industry as we do guys?
Well, that's a really good question.
Stumped you from the get-go.
No, Hannah's going to answer that one. No, I'll think on an answer for that. But look, barriers are what we, perceived barriers. It's a really rubbish thing, isn't it? Having any barriers. People say that cost is a barrier. It's not now that we've got these amazing schemes in place like on board. That's no longer a barrier cost. So you can forget that one. And actually, what is it about a young girl that might not do it? Is it confidence? I don't know, because there will always be those females that then break that mold. So I don't know.
But we all face it. I mean, did you have any kind of second guesses or kind of times where you second guessed yourself and thinking, what am I doing here? Should I really be here?
I think that's natural of like everyone, really. I think everyone will normally at some point have a bit of that imposter syndrome, and I don't think that's unique just to females. I think perhaps they recognise it more, and I think there are less women, and therefore you maybe sometimes feel a little bit more on your own in a way. Not so much, but sort of feel like, oh, I don't have a person right next to me who's also doing it. Sometimes it's a little bit more just you, and you've got to find it perhaps more within to have that confidence.
And that year you were a skipper, how many female skippers were there on your race?
Just 2. So and I found that actually my friendship with Inika, who was the other female skipper, was really core to getting kind of through the hard times, and we shared a lot. And I was actually also really, really great friends with the other skippers. It wasn't just because Inika was the female, she was my only friend. I mean, I still work very closely. Max Rivers was a skipper as well, and now we work together all the time. And so it wasn't necessarily just needed another female to help me, but there were parts that you could kind of have conversations with that you shared perhaps more than you would with the men. But I think that imposter syndrome is natural for anyone. And how you get through that is varied depending on who you are. And there is a conversation of gender, but it's not simply unique just to being female.
Yeah, and even in business, you know, as the managing director, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, you're doing the job. But generally, in our environment that we're used to, you're probably sat with a lot of guys whenever you're meeting your peers.
That's it. Yeah, no, there are way more guys, and it's as simple as that. You know, running business in this industry. But actually what we're finding from an instructor level, if we go sort of back down a bit, actually it's probably 50-50 this summer in our instructor team. There are times when possibly on those days where it's a force 5 and it's raining and we've got to do this and that, look, nobody particularly is thinking, yay, come on, let's do this. But it is easy to kind of get lost in those and think, I can't do it. As a young female, I think a female that's been doing it a year or so knows that they absolutely can, but it's that entry level instructor maybe doubts themselves from time to time because of the bravado of some of the guys that are no better than them, I can assure you, but they give it, you know, that sort of
So in a way, because I always get asked, and you know, I've sailed mixed. My last round the world team was mixed, and actually seeing where the confidence levels were. And how they reacted, like the girls feel they have to prove themselves a bit more sometimes.
Do you found that as well?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, but I can't. So then they would just back off straight away, like the other extreme. And I was like, whoa, you're the one with an Olympic medal. But you do know what you're doing. So what is that?
I think there's a part of like when you're in a mixed environment is that you do feel like you have to prove things. Like I'm just as strong as some of the men, like in perhaps individual maximum strength, then this person might be stronger. However, if we're grinding on a coffee grinder, I can probably go just as long as this person next to me. So you feel like a little bit more like you do have to prove, but then in a way that makes you a little bit more sensitive to not then wanting to get it wrong, because you feel like you've got to prove something, and if you got it wrong, then you feel like you're taking 1 step forward, 2 step back, and that's what then I think starts the sort of the slightly more reserved that you see perhaps more in females than in males, is that you don't want to get it wrong because you're trying to prove that you're worthy, and trying to prove whether that is literal or something you've invented in your head, which is actually often the case. It's still there, it's still a feeling, and that's the kind of, I think that sometimes is what holds back initially. And so creating that environment to not feel like that is crucial.
We're our own worst enemies, aren't we?
Yeah.
Do you find out with the instructors that actually they just need a bit of a shove?
Yeah. And if I'm running a senior instructor course, for instance, and there'll be half and half, and it will be the guys that will be like, come on, yeah, we've got this. And the girls will be like, with a plan, oh no, I want this plan properly. I don't want to blag it. I want to get it right. And their sessions are fantastic, but maybe needed a bit more, you know, off the hoof stuff. So it is interesting, but I think you touched on it earlier on about creating a really positive culture. And I think if, as role models, if you create that culture, then people will feed off how you are performing. So yes, a lot of the time there are times when I've gone into meetings and I've been like, oh my god, you know, fake it till you make it sort of thing, and actually you're there and you're like, oh, why was I worried? So I think we've got to, as well, probably a duty is to create that positive culture, male or female, and that's the behaviours we want to see. You know, we want to see you confident, we want to see you planning, you know, we don't want to see you sort of we can't do it, because everyone can do it.
So you mentioned role models there, and that's key. For me, to that whole adage of if you see it, you can be it.
Yes,
I think is really good. And actually, I have to commend this Clipper race that's currently ongoing.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the biggest haul of female skippers ever. Right?
Yeah, it's the we've got on board the Clipper race. We've got 2 professionals. We've got 10 yachts, so that's 20 staff, and 55% of them are females. So there's more females than males.
Wow.
From our skippers and mates. There's 4 female skippers, which is the highest it's ever been, and it's just great as a demonstration in role models. And you know, you could go into how that's gone from what it was before to up here. I think it's having role models, but not so much the big role models you see on the Instagram or TV or anything. It's having like your friends or your friends' friends, seeing it a bit closer to home, and seeing those like, you know, that last year there was this female first mate, and they had a great time. I'm going to do that. Yeah. And so we had this great application of people, and it's so great to see, and we're proud of it.
Because I remember not that long ago, I think Wendy Tucker had won the race, Nikki Henderson had come second, and then the following year there was not a single female, and I was just like, what just happened?
That was the year I came in. It was a bit of a complicated race, but I came in halfway, and there were 4 female first mates, and that was it. And then the next race there was 2 female skippers and 4 female first mates, and then now it's 4 females, and it's great to see. I mean, I was quite proud because my first mate was a young female who is now one of the skippers.
Proud mum moment.
Yeah, so it's great to like
Your
see
influence.
that progress. And I mean, there's many influences, not just my own, but I like to think I helped.
Those role models, it's super important, and those now, that cohort now, it's going to influence the next iteration. For you with instructors, how important is it for the kids to see that there's girls and boys doing the same job, doing the same thing?
I think it's really important, actually, and because everybody brings different skills, you know, and when you're matching your instructors to which group, you know, do you put the grumpy guy that's really techie and really loves it with those 8-year-olds that are just learning? Then no, you don't, you know, so you match your skills. And I'm not saying we just put the girls with the young kids, we don't at all, but everyone has different skills. And for all of the youngsters, whether you're at your start of your journey or you're at that race level, I think seeing people that, like you said, you know, can I be that person? Is that person inspiring me? Yes, they are. That's what we need. I think that's what I love about the industry. I love about the sport.
And what advice do you give? Because, I mean, nature and nurture, the media play a massive key part, parents, schools, peers. What advice do you give to parents coming down when they go, oh, can my little girl do this? Or, you know, how do you tackle that from their perspective of like, yes, they'll be fine, send them in?
Do you know what? And I'm not just saying it, but we don't really see that too much. Possibly we did 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I started, but I think now we are all changing, and even the parents aren't really saying, oh, will my girl be okay? You know, it's much more, will they be all right at this age? You know, or, oh, it's due to rain tomorrow, will they be okay? And you're like, yeah, you know, they'll be okay in the rain, you know. And it is different. And I've got a couple of young girls that came and they did their course. Their grandfather sailed, and you know, all of that, blah blah blah. And I thought we were stopping that, but no, you know, they're still coming through. And she's a young girl, and she comes every single week, doesn't matter what the weather, to our little onboard club, because she loves it. And she's with all the boys, and you know, one of them's called Seaweed Boy because all he does is throw seaweed. He's not there to learn, but her pathway, she's really wants to do it. And she's like, stop messing around. I really want to learn. And I love that. I love that because they've just got such character.
Yeah.
So, and that's sailing for you, I think.
Yeah. And everyone, because I was like, how did you go from your transition of dinghies and teaching at that water sports level to then going into big boats? That transition, how was it?
I remember actually it was at the Southampton boat show. It was coming to the end of my time. Well, I'd been at Rockley for 3 years, and I was like, what shall I do next? And I was at Southampton boat show. One of my friends worked for UKSA and said, oh, you could do this like 0 to hero yacht master. And I was like, well, I'll give that a go.
I know it well.
Yeah, many people do. And so I gave that a go, and I went and got my Yachtmaster, and it was great fun. And just I organically from there, just with the love of sailing and the people in sailing, I've always been super drawn to, and just naturally just kind of kept going from one thing to the other. I worked in Greece doing like flotillas and stuff, and then I got my cruising instructor, and then through like people that I knew, I ended up with Clipper. One of my great friends who worked for them and said, "Oh, you should try this." And then I did. I trialed to be a first mate, kind of off the kind of one weekend. Felt a bit bored, so pressed the apply button, and I did. And I did the trial, and he was the deputy race director at the time. Sat me down and was like, "You'll be great. We want you to be the first mate for the rest of this race. Then you're going to skipper it." And it was a huge, like, you know, just filled me with like, oh my God, like, wow. And he's now turned into the race director and then employed me as a race manager. So he obviously thought I was okay because he kept me around for quite a while. But that was like my transition, and it all sort of formed from just people around just being like, you know, you can't keep going, like, go do the next thing.
Yeah, having belief in
you. And so I've always found positivity in this environment, in this this industry, and there's always been people that have sort of pushed me the right way, and that's sort of where I got it from. I wonder if I hadn't had that, I probably would have stopped and gone and done something else, but I've always found a lot of like support. And managed to go to the next thing, and suddenly I'm sat here on a podcast, and you're like, when did this happen? You know, like, I'm, you know, sitting next to you is taking me back to like 8 years ago, where I was in sort of no shoes and board shorts in the south of France working for a Pip. So it was it's amazing.
Tough gig, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's awful.
But with loads of people though get into the sport, don't they? From just becoming an instructor and doing a season abroad or in the UK or what have you, and then you see them like later on their journey and you think, you were with us years ago, and or with another company, you know, and I just think that's amazing. I love it.
And the nature of our sport is so diverse that there's so many directions you can go in. And I think having an element of just being open-minded of what's possible is, because you don't know what you don't know. And then suddenly someone says, "Oh, what about this?" You're like,
So I do loads of these careers events. I go out year 10s and 11s, and ultimately I'm wanting to get them to come and do our college course, train to be an instructor and have a whole world. But, you know, a lot of young people just have no clue what they want to do. Well, why should they? You know, why should you know what you want to do? I don't think I still know what I want to do. But anyway.
When you grow up, you can decide.
When I grow up, I will decide. That's a long way off. And, you know, you're talking to them about, oh, you could do this. And maybe the barrier, a parent will say, well, there's no money in it, is there? And you're like, well, you know, let's not talk about the money side. Let's talk about the fun and the enjoyment and where it leads to.
Yeah.
But, you know,
the locations you work, the people you meet.
Exactly. And we're finding now more and more people are going off and maybe super yacht training or doing their yacht master or something like that, and then they're sending us back these pictures, and you think, yes, that's brilliant. You go.
Yeah. Proud moment.
Yeah.
But
right.
The perception of, if we talk about, we've got really good grassroots.
Yeah.
Equal male, female.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any difference. And then we get to puberty, and we have a massive drop-off. All the girls stop sailing, and then we struggle to get them back in the industry. What do you think is the cause of that? I mean, I've got some ideas, but what do you see, or what do you think could be done?
RYA courses and qualifications. From beginners to professionals, with more than 100 courses to choose from, there's something for everyone. Visit rya.org.uk to learn more.
I don't know. I don't know if when you get to 16 plus, whether it is still what you want to do is get into a wetsuit and get wet and cold every weekend when all your friends are off out and, you know, they're off partying and doing other stuff. Has that lost its edge unless you are out and out onto your racing side? I don't know. We are finding that, there is a drop off at 16. But what we're then finding is just post-university, they're then coming back. That was something they really did. They really loved it. and then they're coming back into it.
Oh,
But it
really
is, you know, how do we do it? I don't know. What do you think?
You know, for me, the perception of how we consume activity now is so different. And in those teenage years, like, we go through massive hormonal changes and body changes, and also life is so fast now. We don't want to spend 8 hours a day like in a dinghy where you can't go to the toilet when you've got your period and you're in a wetsuit and you're really self-conscious, all those things.
Yeah, but we've got to do something about that.
So we have to adapt our sport to accommodate that, so we're not making them do that.
But we are. I think we're starting to do that, you know, and I think gone are the days where you're out on a race course all day and there's no... I just think we've gone beyond that now. So we've got to make shorter races. We've got to make it much more fun. We've got to make it about off the water as much as on the water. And, you know, when I was trailed around every weekend with my cadet, you know, for years, and I was just like, this isn't right. I'm not actually enjoying it anymore. So, yeah, we've got to do something, I think, collectively to encourage that shorter race format.
Yeah. Also, if we look at what they're looking at, you know, if you're not sailing around the world where they track it every day, wake up, check the weather, you know, it becomes obsessive, then they're watching the other extreme of SailGP, which is a 15-minute race, and then it's all done.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why am I spending hours out there getting cold and wet?
Yeah.
So I think we need to evolve our sport to accommodate.
And I think when we look at all the participation stuff that we do through the RYA, you know, you've got some clubs that are really bucking the trend and really have embraced that. They know that there is a drop off and drop off in the females as well. So they are introducing some shorter format racing. And I think clubs that are doing that, good on you. You know, they're then bringing in like a SUP fleet, you know, and they're doing SUP yoga as well. So, I'm going racing, great, and that's only going to take an hour and I'm doing something else. And I think we've just got to be clever about how we kind of keep people in the sport. Otherwise, like you say, people are so time poor at the minute. They've got so many things to do that actually spending a day sailing is not, I don't think. So we can do that, but we can all do that.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah. And Hannah, I'm going to take you back to when you were skippering your boat, because you get your 20 random people that have paid for the opportunity of a lifetime and you're responsible for them all. And I don't even know how old you were when you went around the world.
I was 27.
Yeah, 27. And you've got CEOs who are taking a break from work, who have very strong opinions.
Yeah, my favourite.
I can see the way you're looking that you recognise this aspect. How did you deal with that as a 27-year-old making the decision?
Yeah,
because it all rested on your shoulders.
I love this question because I get asked it a few times, and ultimately I didn't do anything different, because where we were going was not like, you know, around the Solent where you know and familiar. We were going out into the oceans, biggest oceans in the world, and crossing them. And these people that might have come in who were older and have been very successful in their area quite often had not crossed oceans, and they'd not been at sea for 30 days, and they'd not worked in a watch system for 4 hours on, 4 hours off, etc., etc. And therefore they might have come in with a bit of bravado, but all I felt I needed to do was to demonstrate my knowledge and understanding of the situation and show my skill. And they very quickly picked up that, actually this environment is completely unfamiliar to me, but my skipper here, doesn't matter how old she is or anything like that, that kind of went out the window. I was just a skipper who knew what was happening and knew the plan, and was clearly communicated that to me because I didn't know it, and I ultimately didn't have a problem with it. There were times where sometimes you had a bit of like, had to be a slightly more firmer with some people than other, being like, this is the plan. But if you explain, we didn't do anything irrationally. Everything we did was like, right, well, the wind's doing this now, so we're going to go do this, and made it open as well. I wasn't, for everyone to be involved with, that ultimately I don't feel like it was difficult to have these type of people compared to me, who in normal world perhaps don't cross over very often. In that type of dynamic, it's quite unusual.
What about when they say to you, have you done this before? And you're like, nope, I'm picking it up as I go along.
I think
there's a book somewhere.
Yeah,
exactly. I've seen a book.
That would be it, just a bit of banter really. Like, you can't be too serious sometimes. And if like, I'm a good-humoured person, and that you just make jokes like that, and that makes people feel comfortable. When people feel uncomfortable, that's when it becomes difficult and problematic. But if people feel comfortable and understand and safe with you, then all problems are ironable out.
Yeah.
So
can I ask, right, are people like really seasick?
Oh yeah, really seasick.
Oh, okay, that's the thing. I always wonder.
Yeah, people get seasick. I mean, you'll know all about people.
But if they're out there long enough, they do get through it.
Yeah,
they
you
do
only
come
have
out
to
the other side. They don't believe it at the time. They think they're going to die, and then they'd rather die.
Yeah.
And then they do come good.
It's like sort of 3 days, and I remember like the Bay of Biscay, which is quite early on in our race. So go from Portsmouth to Spain. The Bay of Biscay was it was rough on our race, and the race that's on at the minute was even worse. And like, I remember the seasick was just incredible. We were cooking this tagine at the time, what's it called? And it exploded off the hob, so it was all along the wall. And then people were just throwing up around it, and there were parts where I'm like, I'm not sure if that's the food of people. It's just a day, and then everyone like
lovely.
The wind comes behind you, the boat flattens out, and everyone kind of gets better and tidies up after it. And it's got to laugh about it now, but it does. Seasick happens, and then it goes.
Yeah, okay.
So, you tempted, Pip?
I'll sign you up. I've got the right people for you.
I think I would be seasick. That's what I'm like worried about.
No, but I was actually going to say you'll be a really good skipper.
Well,
come on. We're employing next race.
Yeah, interesting. I'm retiring in a few years.
Perfect timing then.
Okay, well then I've got a 3-year plan.
You heard it here first, Hannah.
Yeah.
I just don't see. This is that classic. I just don't think I would be able to be away for so long. And I think it's weird, isn't it? I just think I would miss everything at home. But maybe that's the female thing, because I need to look after everyone back home. I think I would be too worried. But maybe when I'm retired, I'll have no responsibility then. I can just...
Well, that's exciting.
Just go.
I think that's super exciting.
Is that? No, you didn't hear it here first. Or maybe just go
it's out in the public.
Maybe I'll go around the Isle of Wight.
I've got your number.
So looking ahead, if you could wave your magic wand, you said you're going to retire. Yeah, right. People like you never really retire.
I just keep telling myself that.
Yeah. What positive change would you like to see come in so that you can go, yes, my work here is done?
That's another really good question.
It's good. I'm good at these questions because that is my job.
It's a very good question. Do you know what? I think 20 years ago when we started on board, if I could have waved a wand as to what the next 20 years, we are nearly there in the fact that it is so much more accessible. You know, we've got more people on the water in more places around the country. Great. I'd like it to lose its, you're a sailor, are you? You know, kind of attitude. I'd love us to lose that. I think we're doing some amazing things like the Sail GP stuff that's highly visible. I've got loads of people there. And now it's becoming quite sexy to do that. And I think that's quite good. I'd love it. I'd love more school children age to be able to take part. Cheaper.
Yes, because in France, if you're at school within a certain distance of the coastline, sailing is part of your curriculum.
Yeah. And
you see all the lines of oppies go out and it's amazing. Yeah. And you're like, we're an island nation and we don't do that.
Yeah. And I'm not going to get onto the how suitable is our curriculum thing, because I could go on for ages about that. But I do think we do have a bit more of a duty to get our young people outside. And sailing is a perfect example of all those amazing character traits that we can teach a young person. You know, the confidence, the resilience, the communication, and take away from those traditional sports. And actually there is a real pathway there for us, I think. So magic wand would be that. If I look back in 20 years time, if I'm still around, which I hope I will be.
Having gone around the world and everything.
Twice, you know, that's what I would like to see. More people.
I like that.
Yeah.
And now in your position with your experience, like how would you like to see, because the Clipper race is one of those vehicles that introduces more amateurs to sailing, offshore sailing, than any other vehicle out there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge responsibility, if nothing else. But what would you like to see that evolution?
I mean, I think it's the same. Like, I was Clipper. I remember when I first got introduced to it, I thought, oh, that's a bit inaccessible for me. You either need to have loads of money to sign up to do it, or if you want to work professionally on it, you need to be the best racer that's ever been, and you need to be super experienced in that, which I didn't feel like I had either of. However, actually, it's not like that at all. And there are routes into it, either to sign up as crew, but also like to come and work professionally for them. You know, it starts with what you say, and it's that. And then that can feed into people that come and do your college stuff. They can go get their yacht master, and they can come and be your first mate. And then if you're a first mate, you can then become a skipper, and you can skipper a 70-foot yacht around the world. It's more accessible than it might sound when you first say it. And we, Clipper, really want to bring that in, and we want to have more like bring people in as first mates, or in our training, bring them into first mates and bring them up into skippers, and sort of mould these people to be able to achieve that. And that's what I want to see more of, more young people doing that. And obviously I'd love it to be 50-50 females and males, would be the absolute dream, but young people getting involved in that and creating amazing sailors who can, skipper boats across the world's biggest oceans.
Yeah, signpost, pathways and opportunities. I think that's a really nice way to leave it. And I have to say, I'm completely energised by the two of you together. I think between the two of you, you're going to evolve sailing, and we'll all be in a happy space.
Oh, if only it was that simple. But thanks very much. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And next, I'm joined by James Ward, who is founder and CEO of Marine Resources, set up in 2003. He's worked in the industry, the marine industry, guiding people as a shining light for a long time. And James, I'm delighted to talk to you. But tell me, why the marine industry? What was the attraction for you?
Hi Dee, thanks very much for having me on today. Well, I mean, I've kind of been in and around the industry ever since I was really young. I'm from Exmouth down in Devon originally, and kind of got into sailing around 9 years old. And at that time, a lot of the other kids sailing cadets had parents who were working in the marine industry or had businesses in the marine industry. So I was exposed to it really, really early on. There's a lot of quite famous boat builders and sailmakers down in Exmouth at the time. So my eyes were open pretty early to that. And then after college, I actually went and worked at a boat building company called Specialised Marine, just up the coast from Exmouth in Lyme Regis, building international 14s. So not quite my first proper job, but pretty early on, learning how to laminate and build these carbon fibre, absolutely awesome machines. And then I've really just kind of been in the industry in various boat building roles ever since. I did a small stint up in the West Midlands with a company called Speed Sails for a couple of years. But when I was about 20, I really wanted to move to the Southampton area. I was visiting Southampton a lot. I was doing a lot of sailing. I was doing a lot of coaching. I was actually working with the RYA a little bit at the time. I was the national class coach for the cadet class. And I had some friends at the time who had got into recruitment and seemed to be doing pretty well. And I had this idea about running a recruitment company that was really focused on coaches, professional sailors. So I moved to Southampton and really set the business up from there. The coaching and the sailing side didn't really kind of take off. So quite quickly, though, we found a bit of an opening for some specialist recruitment around boat builders and marine technicians and those sort of roles very, very early on in the history of the business.
So it's really interesting because as an industry, it's quite fickle, or it can be, and it's definitely about who you know, not what you know necessarily. So to be in recruitment and kind of put this new blood in the industry sometimes is a high risk strategy. What have you seen evolve over time? Has it been a landscape that's changed since 2003 when you first started?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems to go more in cycles actually than completely change and evolve over time. I mean, really, when we set the business up, it really was certainly in the UK and around the South Coast. It's who you know, not what you know type business. But actually, quite quickly, what I realised was it kind of is a who you know business. But just I think because of my circles that I was in, from sailing, from coaching, from working, I actually knew quite a lot more people than the average other person in the industry. So and it wasn't, people weren't quite as connected and networked as maybe what would appear on the face of it. So I was able to kind of bring quite a lot of people together who didn't actually know each other. And still to this day, I'm kind of quite surprised that, two people may not have known or ever crossed paths, even though they've been in the industry for, 20 odd years, maybe. But that's just kind of how it is. I think in terms of kind of how it's changed, I think the core foundation of the industry has remained pretty much the same. And I think in terms of the cycles, I suppose that what we see is we seem to see a lot of cycles of the industry being very, very busy building boats. And if the industry is very, very busy building boats, what tends to then happen is that there's a big knock-on effect to the equipment companies being very busy, the design companies being very, very busy, and so on and so forth. So we've kind of seen that cycle a few times, 2 or 3 times really over the years. And what then seems to happen is when the boat building tends to start picking up, everybody else tends to start picking up. But then what seems to happen is that the kind of the technology that comes with that changes, whether that's the building techniques or the technology and the equipment. And that creates a real need for a new type of skill set quite often, usually coming from outside of industry.
And you say it's quite cyclical, and we're used to in Olympics being in a 4-year cycle. Offshore sailing is with a Vendée Globe cycle or with an ocean race cycle. We know about the America's Cup. Are they led by big events, these cycles, or is it just literally trends?
No, I mean, I think, yes, there is that side of the industry for sure that's led by the events and the cycles. But actually, and this is where the marine industry and certainly the area of the industry which has been our core, which we always call the leisure side of the industry, it is different. It's actually becomes a bigger industry than maybe people who have only been involved in that kind of high performance side, or whether it's the Olympics or the Cup or anything associated to it, or the offshore stuff. Where it tends to be more driven by the economy, by what's going on in the world, and actually not really linked to anything from an event side at all. So when we've seen the cycles over the years, and I age myself now, sort of in the 2008, 2009 crash, there was obviously, very, very few boats being built. Of course, COVID as well had a massive impact. And also right now, there's less and less boats being built right now. And that's being driven by many different things, from, world politics to more local economics, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it tends to be more kind of financially driven, I guess, globally. It's a global industry.
And as a company putting people in positions, there's a breadth of roles. You've mentioned some of them, but you actually are putting people in positions both ashore in campaigns or projects or boat builds, and also on the water for these projects as well. Is that right?
Well, predominantly we're shore-based at Marine Resources. So where we focus actually is we would be more on the leisure side. That's our predominant kind of core market, but we are also now working very closely with the more kind of what we call the high performance side. So that can be cup teams, it can be campaigns, it can be with the builders that are building the high performance boats, but also on the leisure side, we're working across everything from the people kind of holding the tools and building the boats and fixing the engines, right through to the designers, the design engineers, project managers, and then into the more non-technical side of things, which can be anything from marina managers right through to business managers, sales professionals, marketing professionals. I think what the industry has always liked is people that have a professional skill, whether that is the ability to kind of build a boat, or be an expert in marketing or operations. But the industry has always really liked people who have some sort of interest in sailing or boating or getting out on the water. That, that kind of passion for ultimately what the industry is all about. There was always a bit of a myth back, when we started, that you had to have worked in the marine industry to be able to work in the marine industry. And I think, just going back to one of your questions before, probably one of the things that we've seen change over time is now actually the industry is much more open-minded and focused to people who can bring those professional skills first and foremost. But if they can do that and bring actually a bit of an interest and a bit of knowledge about, sailing or boating or getting out on the water, then that's a real bonus for sure.
So it's interesting there. You're really kind of commending the transferable skills that we can move across employment. What are the, I'm guessing there's the technical skills that you mentioned, like do you have the ability to laminate or whatever that role is? But I'm guessing the general professionalism skills you can take to anything. Is there an opportunity for apprenticeships or training? Have you seen a shift for more kind of development roles as well?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of apprenticeship opportunities in our industry. They tend to be more focused on, we'll say, more on the technical type roles, the boat builders, carpenters, marine engineers. They're great apprenticeships for sure, and there's more and more businesses taking those on. They tend to be the larger businesses. I think now what businesses are starting to understand, and I think there's maybe a slight lack of understanding on let's take apprenticeships for example, that actually you can actually have apprenticeship in almost anything. And I think as an industry, we think about apprenticeships and go straight to the boat building type roles. And I actually personally think there's a lot of opportunity for businesses to maybe look at apprenticeships within their sales teams, their marketing teams, their operation teams, their marina teams, that sort of thing.
And as an industry, because this is fascinating for me and you get to see all aspects of it, has there been a big shift in, using the term sustainability, whether rightly or wrongly, but the shift of materials, the shift of techniques and technology that supports the boat building industry? I
think the industry is very aware that there's shifts that need to be made. And I think you start to look at maybe the super yacht sector as well. There's more and more focus around carbon emissions, and this is also relevant in the maritime sector as well, which does link. And a lot of people who do the types of roles that I spoke about already are also super relevant in the maritime sector. Sustainability is something that we're definitely focused on more as an industry, but also kind of trying to catch up with as well. A lot of the boat building companies, big or small, still use relatively traditional methods and traditional, even on the composite side of things. We're seeing a lot more businesses focused on things like electric propulsion on the smaller boats. And there is a lot of research and products coming out with recyclable composite materials and resins and things, but it's all very early days with that. I think what's really interesting when you start to look at careers and people kind of coming into the industry, there's definitely a real focus from younger people, let's say, on sustainability. And that in itself is almost driving some change in businesses, either because younger people are having a look at our industry and either seeing parts of it that are very focused on sustainability, and that's something that they care about quite a lot and are joining those businesses, or they're actually seeing parts of the industry that aren't at all and probably need to catch up on that. And we're probably losing out on some really, really good talent from those types of people. There's actually a third category in that. There's some businesses that may be a bit more traditional, maybe an SME business, who are seeing an opportunity in bringing younger people into their businesses and giving them responsibility for helping them to become more sustainable, because they just come with a real passion for it, actually quite a good knowledge of it, and So there's opportunity there, and then that's a bit more on a soft skills side of things. But there's definitely more and more businesses recognizing that they need to change as a business, and actually younger people coming into the industry can really help them do that.
And that's a tough role to fill. I mean, to get people to change habits and change perceptions is a tricky one when they've been set in their ways. With that younger workforce, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the other side of that is the use of AI and digital design, data usage is probably growing in the industry, and the younger people come in much more willing to work with this concept.
Yeah, definitely. That's another great opportunity for businesses, bringing in younger people who may not have that industry experience or those more traditional kind of hard skills that have been learned from years in the industry. But, they do definitely come with a much more natural ability to use things like AI and be able to kind of help adapt systems and processes within businesses to using that sort of thing. This industry is, again, it's kind of catching up a little bit in terms of technology internally within businesses and automations and that sort of thing. And younger people can definitely bring something, on that side of things to help fast forward that. And there's definitely a bunch of businesses, again, who are recognizing this, come and work with us, bring those skills, and we will in turn teach you more on the hard skills in our particular part of the industry.
And in the last 20 years, have you seen a shift in the demographic that wants to come into the industry and has opportunities? Is there a wider sense of inclusion and diversity in the industry?
I'd love to say there was. Don't
disappoint me here, James.
I'd love to say there was. I think if we're being really honest, probably not enough. And something that I go and talk to businesses about a lot is, how do we up the awareness of our industry and, more specifically their businesses to a wider potential pool of people. I think the industry they're much more, I guess, aware that we're not very kind of good when it comes to real diversity and inclusion. But I think probably the thing that has shifted more so in the last, probably post-COVID actually, is that it's now actually kind of getting to critical points in terms of the amount of people coming in, the aging demographic of the people who have been in the industry for a long time, and that actually now something needs to change. So, this is a baby steps thing in our industry, and I think we're on the right track. People are much more willing to say, okay, we now know we need to be better at this. We need to, push us as an industry and our businesses and what we do to a different audience, to attract different types of people, to attract different ways of thinking, to attract different experiences and those different soft skills. I think just as an industry that we're in that kind of education phase of how to do it, which will ultimately produce where we all want to be, I think, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, quicker.
So, by that, I'll take the positive from that you think this is actually quite an exciting time in the industry where we're just on the cusp of a big change. I
think it's a super exciting time, Dee. You're absolutely right with that. I think if you kind of, I quite often talk about, getting in an elevator, going up right to the top floor of the tallest building that you can find in the area and looking down on the industry. What do you see right now? You see an industry that at its roots is quite traditional, however, has really, really exciting technology developments, is on a massive steep curve when it comes to moving into more sustainability, moving into more sustainable ways of working. It's really, really open-minded to bringing in new people. It's moving very, very fast, and actually there's pockets of the industry that's getting an awful lot of investment. There's a lot of merger and acquisition happening right now. So yeah, it is an exciting time. The the bit we need to do next, and really, really quickly, is to get people who don't see it, who aren't in that building looking down, or even in the industry right now, getting them excited about it, because there's a huge amount of opportunity for people to come into this industry. But what they see at the moment is, maybe it's a place not for them. They don't understand it. They see, they still just from the outside in see, the nice white yacht, drinking G&T off the back of it type thing. We don't necessarily shout about all the cool stuff that's happening with technology and innovation and funding and, the breadth of all the different types of roles that are available. You don't have to be a skipper to work in the marine industry. You don't even have to go on a boat. If you really don't want to, you can be in these fantastic environments, in brilliant SME businesses, in marina settings. So yeah, I think, it is an exciting time. We just don't want to miss the opportunity.
So how do we do it? What do you think? What's the magic dust that we need to sprinkle to change that? How do we get to the next generation to tell them there's all this opportunity out there?
The $1 million question.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you don't want to share your trade secrets.
No. Look, it's not about this. For me, is an industry wide thing that we need to be better at. And I am desperately passionate about this industry and the people in it and the businesses that are in it. And, I think this is the best industry in the world, and I just want more and more people to come and experience that. How do we get to them? I think we need to be a lot better at really putting a spotlight on the things that's exciting and the opportunities that are happening. Like all those things that I just talked about. You actually start going into talk to people, whether it's schools or colleges or universities. Of course, that's one area that you go and talk about. You talk about some of these things when it comes to technology and sustainability and investment and that sort of thing. It really gets people excited. I think the way that we market our industry, we still currently market our industry to the average boat owner or to a person that may buy a boat. And the marketing when it comes to careers needs to be a completely different campaign now. We also tend to market the careers within our industry on the same platforms where we may market our boats or the equipment that you might be selling. That's not the audience we're looking for. So I think actually we as the opportunity we have as an industry is to try and understand who it is that we want to attract. It has to be a younger audience from a careers point of view. Like we have a real problem with our aging kind of workforce in our industry, and we're at critical in some of the more traditional skills. We're at critical levels of we're about to lose people into retirement or whatever who they are the only people who have these skills and they're not getting passed on. So we absolutely kind of understanding the audience better. Let's take younger people. What's going to get them excited and where are they and how can we shout at them about where this, about our great industry. It's probably not in the same places as where your average boat owner is.
Yeah, so true. And one thing that you said there really made me listen is you were like, I absolutely love this industry. I'm passionate about it. And you can tell by the way you talk. What is it that makes you excited? Why do you love this industry?
Well, I know no other. So maybe I'm biased, but I just think there's very few people who I know who have come into this industry and then left. And maybe the ones that have always come back. I think what you have in this industry is this amazing community as well. And at its very core, one of the reasons that many people work in this industry is because they're very passionate about the water and the ocean, and whether it's sailing or windsurfing, hiking, it doesn't matter. Many people have found sort of personal interest in there. So that drives that real kind of passion across everybody who's in it as well. So it really is the people in this industry. There's some amazing people, some amazing characters. And actually, if you really get into it, there's a lot of people who want to now take people who don't know this industry or haven't been in it under their wing. And really kind of support and try and help people become successful in it. And then you add on some of the other stuff that I talked about what's happening with technology and innovation and AI and all of this stuff. It's just the exciting industry right now, which is full of passionate people. So why wouldn't you love it?
I love that. You can tell you're genuinely passionate about it, which is really nice. It comes across. So what would your advice be to your college student now who doesn't really know where their future goes? What do they do? Do they get qualifications? Do they get apprenticeships? Do they train for skills? What advice do you give a young person today?
It depends a little bit on which type of role or area of the industry that they want to work in. So clearly there is some positions where you need qualifications, or whether it's degrees or apprenticeships. Very hard to come work in a yacht design office if you can't draw. I actually think some of the advice I give quite often to those younger people is come and get a seasonal job over the summer working in a marina. Come to a boat show, but don't come and just look at the boats. Come and talk to the different businesses about their businesses. Come and kind of understand that side of things. And that is a really great way to open your eyes to all the different roles that are available in this industry, which aren't those very, very industry-specific new qualification type roles. And I talked before about sales, marketing, operations, whether that's in events, whether that's in a big boat building company, whether it's in a marina or an equipment business, manufacturing, what are the sustainable technologies that are happening. That would be my advice. Just look at it from the face of it, which is usually a nice looking yacht or a powerboat. Come and speak to these people, because as soon as you do, you'll get that kind of passion that runs that we talked about, and you'll really open your eyes. And I've actually know a good amount of younger people now who have taken that advice, and they've come and maybe worked in a marina for a summer and have absolutely kind of just stayed in the industry from there. Absolutely loved it, and now are having really, really successful careers. The other thing I'd say about the marine industry, certainly on the leisure side, is in 20 odd years, unless it's a yacht designer or someone like that who needs some specific qualifications, there's been very, very few businesses that I've worked with who focus in on the education and the GCSEs that you got and A levels and that sort of stuff. It's a real people business. So come and speak to the people, work on your soft skills, understand what your strengths are. And actually it's an industry that you may not be the most academically gifted person, but it's probably an industry that is way more open to giving people a chance who just have something about them.
Yeah, and we all know somebody like that. On the flip side of the advice for young people, a career change, it's very common now. I mean, 20 years ago, people didn't really change careers. They were in a career for life. But now it's about having transferable skills. So are midlife people that are looking or considering a career change, what's your advice for them?
Yes, and I always go to the young people because that's something that I'm really, really focused and passionate on. But I think probably, and I think I mentioned it before, one of the biggest things that has changed over the years is that the industry is also much more open-minded to bringing people in who haven't worked in the industry before. So having a career change is completely possible kind of within our industry, definitely. And again, that plays a bit for those people who kind of have that spark, that have that something about them. But if you bring a bunch of experience from another completely other industry, even if it's a completely different role, I think something like 90% of the leisure marine industry in the UK is our SMEs. And SMEs tend to need people that can do a whole different bunch of things. To work in an SME, you've got to be willing to not clock watch. You've got to be willing to roll your sleeves up and kind of do a bit of everything. And so people who are coming from other industries, they may not be mega experienced in a particular role within that business, but again, that willingness to kind of get stuck in is massive. So I think anybody doing a career change, definitely kind of, you get the opportunity to go into a business or interview, that is worth a lot. So really kind of focus on that. So yeah, I think career changes are very, within our industry are maybe against other industries is a real possibility for sure.
Well, it's been a really good insight into the world of the maritime industry and how wide and diverse your role is by placing people there. But I'm just going to give you a little quiz just to finish, that if you could swap jobs with anyone in the marine world for a week, what would it be and why? That's got you thinking, hasn't it?
Yeah. Swap jobs for a week.
Only a week.
Yeah, only a week. Do you know what? I think I would definitely swap jobs with somebody who is, properly, on the tools, building some sort of very, very cool sort of composite boat. Only because it's what I used to do back in the day. I haven't done it for years. There's something about, taking a roll of cloth and a bucket of resin and making it into something absolutely stunning. So probably for a week I'd kind of go back to the roots a little bit and just enjoy creating something and just part with some of the stresses of running a business.
A true creative by heart. Well, we thank you for your time and also your energy and enthusiasm placing people in the industry. Long may it continue, and let's hope you get lots of new people coming to talk to you. Thanks, Dee. Yeah, really, anybody who's interested, who listens to this, who wants to come and have a chat, please reach out. Really always happy to advise people on enjoying our brilliant industry. Thank you.
Learning to sail or sharpening your skills? The RYA shop has everything you need, from handbooks and training guides to the latest racing rules of sailing, plus ebooks and audiobooks you can take anywhere. Visit rya.org.uk/shop and set course for your next adventure.